This is Texas Turning the Tide, sponsored by Hewlett Volkswagen.
That's the first question somebody asks every time they see you. You ready for the Bama game?
We got a lot to prove.
I feel that we did everything in the offseason that we're supposed to do for this moment.
We know Bama's not a pushover at all.
Wow, Will Anderson doing damage.
They could blow us out easily if we don't execute the game plan.
A storied program, a great team. We know it's going to be a very hostile environment.
Utmost admiration for Coach Saban. He gave me an opportunity to get back into this profession.
You know, we seem to play several teams now that kind of know us, but you act like we don't know them. So just because somebody knows you when they play you doesn't mean they're going to beat you.
Tomorrow morning, for just the 10th time ever, Alabama and Texas meet on the football field. It's the Crimson Tide's first trip to Austin in 100 years, and a lot's happened in that span. Bama is second all-time in wins, Texas sixth. Just a few more national titles for the kids from Tuscaloosa. No one in Alabama's history won a Heisman Trophy until 2009. Now the school boasts 4 of them. Texas, with Ricky and Earl, 2. And it will take quite the Texas two-step for the Longhorns to dance away with a victory over number 1 Alabama tomorrow morning. We welcome you to DKR Texas Memorial Stadium as we get you set for this long-awaited, highly anticipated showdown. It's Texas and Alabama, and for the next 30 minutes, this is Texas Turning the Tide. I'm Bob Ballou.
And I'm Jeff Barker. Bob, you mentioned that first Heisman Trophy winner for Alabama back in 2009. As most of you are well aware, that was also the last time these two teams met on the field. And as most of you are also well aware, these two programs went in dramatically different directions in the aftermath.
Yes, they did. It brought Alabama back to the forefront of the national scene, and while it felt like Texas might find its way back on multiple occasions, Texas is definitely not back. At least not yet. The teams were careful and calculated in what they said this week. No need for bulletin board material, but a Texas win, now that would surprise almost everyone.
It probably shocked the world, but it wouldn't shock nobody inside our locker room because, you know, we work hard just like everybody else in the country.
You've probably seen a team like us before, and to go out there and, you know, try to get him roused up a little bit, go ahead and get pressure on him early on it, I think it's very beneficial to, you know, what we have to do to slow him down or slow the team down.
We definitely need to be firing on all cylinders, not just offense, but defense and special teams.
We know the challenge it presents. We have to be at our best. Whenever you get an opportunity like this, for us, it's a great chance for us to, to try to step up to the plate, to try to grow and show who we are as a team.
Nick Saban hired Steve Sarkisian to his staff not once, but twice because of his respect for Sark's offensive mind. Bob goes one-on-one with the UT head coach now, who lights up when talking about the sport of college football and his old boss Saban.
All right, here with Texas head football coach Steve Sarkisian on Texas Turning the Tide. And Coach, one of the things I think we love about covering you the most is your passion and love for this sport of college football. You talk about the pageantry of it all the time. What does Texas-Alabama mean to college football?
Well, it's obviously 2 iconic programs coming together that have had a couple, pretty significant moments in history. I think for all of us, when we get into this thing and we get into be part of games like this, this is why we do it. These are why, as coaches, we choose to work at these types of universities. Why the players choose to go play for these types of universities is to be part of games like this. And so it's exciting.
I know you've played in the biggest stages in college football. Do you take a second before the game, before kickoff or something, to just look around and go, this is awesome?
I always do. I always make it a point to take it in. We work way too hard not to enjoy the moment. And I always try to make it a point to, just to your point, take it in. I remember a point last year in the Red River game. I looked over on the sidelines and Lee Corso was standing there watching the game right next to me. And I went over and shook his hand. And it was early. It was first quarter. Because those moments, that's why we do what we do. And to be in some of these environments and be some of these games like this, you have to. Because there's going to come a point when I don't get to do this anymore. Hopefully it's not for a long, long time. And you want to have those memories, those fond memories of the moments that you got to be part of.
College football isn't college football without Nick Saban. How do you best describe him?
Well, first of all, utmost admiration for Coach Saban. I would not be here today as the head football coach at the University of Texas if it wasn't for him. He's been a tremendous mentor for me, and not only as a coach but as a man. He's done a fantastic job throughout his career of implementing his program into wherever he's went. Michigan State, LSU, the Miami Dolphins, University of Alabama.
So all that said about him, and you've expressed your admiration, deep admiration for him, he called you one of the finest coaches he's ever had on his staff. What does that mean to you?
He might just be trying to make me feel good or something before the game. But no, like I said, I've got a great deal of respect for him. And I wanted to work extremely hard for him. He gave me an opportunity to get back into this profession. I left. I left and went to the NFL. And when that opportunity came back a second time, I went back because I kind of felt like I owed it to him. I had an opportunity to leave after my first year there, and I kind of went back there with the idea that we were going to go win a national championship together, and we didn't in year one. And I stuck around for another year to go kind of finish what we started. I'm glad I did. We won a national championship, and I got this job.
I'm like drooling, dude, just slobbering, just mouth watering, just got my dinner plate ready.
He clinched the national championship for Alabama with a sack late in the game, how Texas native Eric Anders remembers the national title win over the Longhorns, and why it pales in comparison to what he's doing now.
Plus, the Longhorns look back on the loss, the pain it still causes them as they relive that rough night at the Rose Bowl. First, our Texas Turning the Tide trivia question tonight. Name the Longhorns' 3 leading rushers in that 2010 BCS national title game against Alabama. That answer later in the show, but first, our first Texas-Alabama throwback. In 1965, Joe Namath led undefeated Alabama into the Orange Bowl, a win away from a national title. But Texas stood in Bama's way. Ernie Coy scored twice, Jim Hudson found George Sauer for another, and then Tommy Nobis stuffed Namath on a quarterback sneak on 4th and goal in the fourth quarter, and Texas won 21-17.
I'm here to tell you, if Colt would have played the whole game, they probably never would have even scored outside of a field goal. I wouldn't even got close outside of that.
Is this guy trying to pick a fight? Well, as it turns out, he actually is. Former Alabama linebacker Eric Anders knows how to push the buttons of burnt orange fans, but if a Texas fan's going to pick a fight over his Colt McCoy comments, you might want to pick someone else. Eric Anders couldn't believe his eyes.
I was looking at the tackle, and he was looking down the opposite direction. I was just like, no way, this dude doesn't see me coming.
Texas had clawed its way back to within 24-21 with 3 minutes to go.
So I'm like drooling, dude, just slobbering, just mouth watering, just got my dinner plate ready.
The Texan native was about to end the Longhorns' dream.
Ball was snapped. I just got on my horse.
Anders pummeled Garrett Gilbert.
I look up and I see everybody running the other direction. I'm like, oh, fumble.
Alabama hopped on the fumble, and Anders was a hero. It was the kid from San Antonio who delivered the blow that helped the Crimson Tide win the national championship.
You're from right down the street, like an hour and a half, not even. That's the school you wanted to go to. They didn't want you. Then the way the game ended, dude, you couldn't even script it any better for me.
But Anders found out quickly the credits were already rolling on his movie.
I never thought in a million years that with a college education in the same town that I've won a national championship, that I would be on my hands and knees scrubbing toilets.
His reality led him down the wrong path.
Started abusing substances, fighting all the time. I just had a realization that one day, man, you keep living like this, the outcome isn't going to be good.
So he fought back. Literally. Anders started training in mixed martial arts, and today he competes in the middleweight division of UFC.
Oh, jeez! Was he down? Anders with the knockout win!
Hey, there's just something about Eric Anders in those late game moments. But it might surprise you which one he thinks is bigger.
That's probably the biggest play of my college career. Even winning my first UFC fight, without a shadow of a doubt, was just more exhilarating than that.
It probably haunts him this day. It haunts me this day. I was just a freshman.
The ifs, ands, and buts Texas players seethe as they look back on that 2010 BCS National Championship game. Plus, the rap on Robinson. How the former Alabama turned Texas running back is winning new fans every day. But first, another Texas-Alabama throwback. Fred Akers guided Texas to the 1982 Cotton Bowl, but the Crimson Tide shut the Longhorns out through 3 quarters. Trailing 10-0 in the fourth, Robert Brewer and Terry Orr both found the end zone, and William Graham sealed the win with a pick late. UT once again held off the Tide 14-12.
Honestly, I have no idea where I was. I'm not sure if I watched it. I assume I did, but I had no skin in the game.
Well, I mean, almost everyone who bleeds burnt orange knows where they were the last time Texas and Alabama met. Sark bleeds burnt orange now, but at the time, he was the head coach at Washington, so you can't really blame him.
Yeah, he may not have vivid memories of watching that game that night, but we all know that game caused a seismic shift across the college football landscape. Alabama has 5 national titles since that night. Texas, 5 losing seasons since that night. This right here is a look back at that 09 Texas team and the title game that still haunts Longhorns everywhere. There's a long list of moments that highlight that 09 Texas football season.
Under pressure, down he goes!
A 16-13 win over OU.
Beating Oklahoma in a tight game.
Marquise Goodwin, touchdown Texas!
Colt McCoy's epic 5-touchdown, 479-yard game in a shootout win over the Aggies.
We did it the right way, and it was fun times.
How about that Big 12 championship game? Shout out replay review, right?
Oh my, guys, the ball landed out of bounds, and they're going to wait to see if there was 1 second left.
But this is the gut-wrenching moment cemented in the minds of Longhorns everywhere.
Colt is hurt.
The thing about it is you always regret Colt going down. You never know what could have happened.
The national championship game against Alabama, and just the 5th offensive play for Texas.
First drive, stinger. I know how it feels. You can't feel your arm, so I understand. It probably haunts him this day. It haunts me this day. I was just a freshman.
Without Colt behind center, the mighty Tide were too tough to topple.
I'd have given anything to have been out there because I know it would have been different.
Those who bleed burnt orange will always feel that way. For Garrett Gilbert, the moment was too much too soon, but an incredible learning experience nonetheless.
Really, that whole experience, just being a part of it, to get to be a part of a team like that goes to a national championship, it goes without saying, not very many people get to do that, but it was a lot of fun and something I'll always look back on.
I reminisce on that game all the time, and Garrett, he did a hell of a job, man. He did everything he could ask for and more, and people forget about that game. That game was one for the books, man. Alabama did not walk out of there breathing easy, man. I tell you, there was some sweat on them.
Now more than a decade later, the Longhorns are still trying to recapture that old form. Even as a wide-eyed freshman, Kenny Vaccaro knew what elevated that 09 team from good to great.
It was magical for me because I came in from Brownwood, Texas. I had a torn ACL. I didn't redshirt. I had a knee brace on. I was on kickoff. I was ready to run through a brick wall for Earl Thomas, Sergio Kendall, Colt McCoy, Jordan Shipley. I just want these young guys to understand, I did not care about anything else but doing what I need to do on special teams at that point. And I feel like the whole team was built like that, and that's why we got to that level. There was no egos. Everybody had a job, assignment, and did what they needed to do.
I'm so proud of the things that we accomplished. Obviously, we fell a little bit short. You can't go back and change it. Every time I think about it, I just feel blessed to have been a part of such a great team. I was just a small piece of that puzzle, and proud to have been on those teams.
So that's how the Texas players remember it. Bob, here's how I remember it. Quick confession, I'm sorry, Mom, Dad, all my teachers at La Cañada High School. Went to school right by the Rose Bowl, junior year. Buddy had just gotten a car. We're like, we got to tailgate. We got to go down there and have a good time. So that's what I was doing during that game.
Jeff, you're outside the stadium. I'm inside the stadium covering the game. We didn't know each other at the time. Here we are 13 years later talking about that same game. The one thing I'll remember from that night is the shock inside the Rose Bowl as Colt McCoy walked off the field in the first quarter. But I'll always give him the most credit of anyone that night because of the way he handled the aftermath of that situation, because he had to watch his final collegiate game from the sideline.
I'm right, so I just go in there and just close my eyes, and whatever comes to the head and out my mouth is what I end up putting out.
On that note, that's a wrap. A literal one. How Keelan Robinson is making a name for himself in a running back room with a bunch of them already. But first, another Horns Tide throwback. Texas and Alabama each lost once during the 1972 regular season. The Tide to rival Auburn, the Horns to rival Oklahoma. In the 1973 Cotton Bowl, Bama led 13-3 at the half, but Allen Lowry scored 2 second-half touchdowns, and UT shut the Tide offense out en route to a 17-13 win. UT running back Keelan Robinson is one of 3 players on the Texas roster that transferred in from Alabama. Now, Robinson made the move before last season, and even though this season's already well underway, for K-Rob, it's also already a wrap.
I finally made it, I guess. You know, I'm doing everything I wanted to do.
3 years ago, Alabama running back Keelan Robinson broke off this touchdown run, and his path to greatness in Tuscaloosa was well underway.
74 yards for the true freshman from D.C.
3 years and a transfer to Texas later, Robinson is finding his footing again.
I feel like it was a great transition.
Got your little heart in my pocket, and I try to take off with it because my life is so empty.
This running back room can be the greatest, the best running back room in the country.
Even if his touches are limited.
Whenever my name is called, I just make plays. Rule number 2 on the team is don't complain, so all I can do is make plays when I get the rock.
You are not going to catch Keelan Robinson!
I can't slow down.
He's an experienced guy. He's interesting because he's very confident. So he can have a little bit more fun. He's a little bit more loose.
Too much tweet. Social media's a really bad influence.
See, when Keelan Robinson says he finally made it, he does mean on the football field. But he's also feeling himself in the studio.
I don't write, so I just go in there and just close my eyes, and whatever comes to the head and out my mouth, that's what I end up putting out.
Because each song you're hearing is a Keelan Robinson original.
Finally made it in this month.
I finally made it, I guess. You know, I'm doing everything I wanted to do. I'm playing football at the highest level. Life is good, personally. Making music, I always wanted to. Everything's just on the up right now, so finally made it. Feel like I made it into who I am.
Keelan's in one heck of a running back room. Let's answer our Texas Turning the Tide trivia. The 3 leading rushers the last time UT played in the title game against Alabama: Trey Newton with 39, DJ Monroe 33, and John Childs with 8. When we return, Sark with one final great Nick Saban story on golf. The average USGA handicap for a Texas golfer is 13.1. The Lone Star stayed a full stroke better than Alabama at 14.1. How is that relevant? Well, golfing is a hobby for both Nick Saban and Steve Sarkisian. But when Sark hole-in-one-upped Saban, well, it made it even better.
His line used to always be beat the traffic. You know, hey, let's beat the traffic today and get out of here at noon, which meant he was probably going to play golf, which meant we got to go play golf. Well, we end up playing at the same course as him, and we're about 3 holes behind him. It was a par 3. I'll never forget this. He's on another par 3. He's on the green. We're hitting, I've got a 9-iron in my hand about 145 yards out onto another green, and there's water splitting the 2 greens, and he's on the green putting. I go up, and I dunk a hole-in-one right in front of him.
No way.
And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. He thinks I'm way too good at golf now, like I'm not working hard enough. And he didn't acknowledge the hole-in-one for about 4 or 5 days. And I know it was right in front of him. And so finally, he acknowledges the hole-in-one, and he tells me the story of a hole-in-one he hit, which probably tops mine. I'll let him tell you that story. But it was just kind of the eating grin he got, you know, like as he was telling me the story. And I'm thinking he's going to just wear me out on this thing. And we had a great laugh.
All right, it is Texas hosting #1 Alabama inside DKR Texas Memorial Stadium tomorrow morning at 11. Full coverage on CBS Austin tomorrow night. For now, for Jeff Barker, I'm Bob Ballou. We thank you for joining us. This was Texas Turning the Tide.